What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk a little bit about game preservation. And it looks like we have a little bit of good news to talk about from the big corporations. Now, the Sony, the Nintendo, the Microsofts of the world, look, some of them try, some of them do not. Some of them give a little bit more effort than others. I have an entire third channel talking about game preservation. It's become a bigger and bigger deal to me over the last few years, and we've talked a little bit about it even on this channel when a game like The Crew gets murdered, in front of our eyes, or at the end of the year, Friday the 13th. Plenty of games, right? And there are things that are done to help game preservation. Normally, they're not the most, they're not endorsed from the big, AAA companies. But we're here to talk about a Xbox report that, it does seem very, very true. I believe it was like an internal email that was just found and kind of spread around, right? But it's from Sarah Bond, and she talks about a lot of different things. The thing I care about for the purposes of this video is the game preservation part. So what I want to do is I want to just read out that part to it, and then we'll talk again a little bit about what Xbox has done so far, what the other companies have done so far, and what this could mean going forward. Okay, so she says, we have formed a new team dedicated to game preservation, important to all of us at Xbox and the industry itself. We are building on our strong history of delivering backwards compatibility to our players, and we remain fully committed to bringing forward the amazing library of Xbox games for future generations of players to enjoy. I would read into this kind of immediately to say it feels like the next Xbox console would be in some ways backwards compatible, and some of that should be, I think, just a standard, an expectation, and some of it, I guess, is more like a luxury thing. Now, look, Xbox has done, I would argue this, Xbox has done the most of the big three. Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, right? Microsoft has done the most. They have been the most generally friendly to, I guess, having so much backwards compatibility, right? They've been the most friendly to game preservation. Have they done, and has any of them done an amazing job? Would I give anybody higher than like a 6 out of 10? No. And, I don't rate video games, but I would rate performance in this way. I would say they all range from maybe like a 2 to a 5 or a 6, right? Like PlayStation jumped on it late, and PlayStation Plus, I do believe is actually a really good service, and they have a lot of games, and you can play those PS3 era games, but they're through streaming. You look at what they've done with the Classics catalog, it's just not strong enough. I think there's more room to grow. Xbox has, Nintendo, I feel like Nintendo's kind of the worst of them. Nintendo is, I think, the most willing to just shut off stores. Xbox kind of is too, though. And PlayStation tried and actually was fought back against, and they didn't end up doing. Nintendo, though, I feel like is the most willing to just pull the plug at any given moment. Release games like Mario, right, in terms of those collections as limited time deals, and then pull them. The way they deal with the retro or classics, I do think is easily the worst. And Xbox, I do believe, is easily the best. Game Pass is such a great deal, and their backwards compatibility push for many years, not just recently, right? Like PlayStation's done good over the last, maybe this generation, but Xbox has had it going, I think, for quite a while. So it's good to see, and it's good to see it continuing. Now, again, is any of them doing an incredible job? No. There is so much work to be done with game preservation. It's actually alarming, the amount of games that are just left to die that will never come back. You know what I mean? I complain about a lot of those classic kind of PS3 era games that Sony just refuses to do anything with, but there's games trapped / literally dead. You will never see them again on Xbox. You'll never see them again on PS2, right? That kind of era. Again, Xbox, I think, does do a pretty good job of moving Xbox to then 360 to then Xbox One and now the Series consoles. But like I said, the thing that I read into this kind of right away is it's going to continue, right? We're going to keep doing it as time goes on, and the next Xbox console is still going to be that backwards compatibility thing. And, all I really need from any of these companies is just every so often, every couple months, definitely more than one time a year, have this really big push of just, dozens, if not hundreds of games. And look, that's a big ask. I understand it takes some work to do it, but, and Xbox has done it, historically. They'll sometimes just drop, a bunch of games. They did that back with backwards compatibility, and then they kind of stopped, right? But they dropped hundreds of games, not at the exact same time, but very close, right? So, again, they've done a really good job, I guess, compared to the rest of them. I don't think anybody's done, an elite job. There's more work to do, but it's good to see that being said, because honestly, and again, the reason why I want to make this video, so often we're talking about the opposite. Now, I do want to just remind people and also remind myself, you have to be cautious about what, these people saying things and if they actually back it up with action, right? You look at Xbox, and again, like, you like to hear it, and it's why I say they're doing fine, but they're not doing like incredible. Hellblade 2, which is their big game literally next month, right? Like, it's probably what do you want to say, top 3 to 5 Xbox game of the year of 2024, digital only. Now, again, is it just Xbox? No, you had Alan Wake do it. You've had plenty of games, like a Dragon, so you've had Sega jump in. You've had Remedy jump in. It's tragic, and it's really bad, and we've talked about it pretty much every time, right? So I do just want to throw that out. I'm sure there might be like comments on that, and I think that is a fair kind of like pushback, right? You read this stuff and you say, okay, well, that's great. Why is Hellblade 2 just digital only, right? And that's a worrisome trend. It's a trend I don't want to continue, but obviously it is going to continue. And you could read the quote, and I don't know, like, the quote itself is more like just keeping these games alive over time through allowing these generations to play it, almost like quoting the literal quote itself. Not necessarily, I guess there's a difference in a way. When you say preservation, what do you mean by that? I want physical. And I mean, my collection continues to grow, by the week or by the month. Preservation can, and it probably does mean to a lot of people, just like literally keeping the game around. And that is probably the factual definition of the word. It's just tough when you can keep a game around, I guess, quote unquote, forever, and you can do it only digitally. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? In a way, it's a good thing because you're preserving it, and that's kind of what this email is saying. But in another way, it's again never truly yours, right? Like, all of the arguments of digital versus physical come back out again. So I think Xbox is doing miles better than the others and doing a pretty good job on their own of keeping games just around. The next Xbox console will have it, but at any point, the stores can go down, your account can get hacked, a variety. Those are only two of the first examples at the top of my head. There's a lot of things that can happen that would eliminate your actual ownership of a product unless you have it physically, right? So Xbox is better in preserving in the general sense of like keeping the game alive. In terms of the digital versus physical thing, they're right in line. They're not leading any kind of charge. They're following everybody else, and they're doing the digital only thing, and it's only gonna, I think, continue as time goes on, which is bad, and I'm always gonna kind of call that out. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.